The authors and the sponsors of the publication are to be congratulated. The ambition is laudable, but to many of us, I guess, it is something which is regarded as achievable. At the moment, that case still has to be made up. The fact is that the numbers are stacked against us. Those of us who believe that these things are achievable, and what we've got to do is have more and more information being published in this way to persuade people that there is a possibility of achieving the sort of objective which is behind this whole piece of work. Let's have a look at what others are doing and saying, and just a few highlights to give you an idea of what's happening elsewhere in the world. And we've had some of that already, and I thought it was very interesting. Incidentally, your photos of some of the solar plant. I was at the launch of a 100 megawatt concentrated solar project in Abu Dhabi just a little while ago. When you start talking about 100 megawatts of concentrated solar, you're starting to talk about real generation. And the idea of a lot of people is that solar generation is sort of something that you might put on the roof and it might provide a little bit of power. It is becoming a reality in so many places that the sort of projections which are made here are being demonstrated to be real, but also the whole support of renewable energy. Wind, for instance, is up now to 175,000 megawatts worldwide. China added 7,800 megawatts during the first 6 months of this year. Now, if you look at what Tasmania's capacity is, that's 3 times Tasmania's generating capacity was added by China in the first 6 months of this year. In wind, not in hydro, not in solar, not in all the others, not in the coal or the nuclear, but just in wind alone. India added 1,200 megawatts. The United States has slowed down, but still added 1,200, to a total of 36,300. Many people say the United States has not been developing renewables, not taking climate change seriously. Certainly they're developing renewables really rapidly, and they have become the largest generator of wind power in the world. But it's not only those countries. Look at Nigeria. They've just announced a German company building a 10 megawatt plant in Nigeria. In Honduras, in Nicaragua, in Egypt, in all sorts of countries around the world, wind is being developed at a rapid rate. And I thought it was interesting yesterday that I was able to find a quote from the Boston Consulting Group, which put its name to the support for the rapid development of renewable energy. And what they said in this, which was published in San Francisco yesterday, was advanced biofuels, carbon, solar concentration. Solar PV will be accelerating adoption and growth and are on track to change the global energy mix far earlier than is often assumed. Their costs are falling rapidly, and they're in the path to becoming cost competitive within the next 5 to 10 years, if not sooner. They referred to onshore wind power as being already cost competitive with conventional energy sources in some instances, and costs will continue to fall. They said, and this was interesting I thought, and this is another message that perhaps needs to be taken to Canberra, clean coal through carbon capture and storage will have very slow adoption and won't be viable for the next decade or two. And yet Australia seems to be, at the moment, trying to put far more emphasis on carbon capture and storage, and it's understandable because we do have a huge amount of coal generation, and that plant's not going to go away in a hurry, and if we could get the breakthrough, it'd be great. But it needs to be borne in mind that there are observers who've studied this who don't believe that it's going to be successful, and that's something which I hear from all over the place. They concluded that it's vital that companies, governments, investors and other stakeholders in the energy ecosystem understand the differences among them, revisit assumptions and redraw outdated plans and timetables. Making the wrong decisions in this space could prove costly. And that's a message to Australia. Making the wrong decisions in relation to renewable energy, falling behind the rest of the world, is going to be costly to Australia. And Tasmania is a place which can, and I believe should be giving, a lead and restore the leadership position which Tasmania had in relation to renewable energy. So when you ask me how can Tasmania support this national shift to renewables, and how will this research affect our actions in Tasmania, I think probably I need to summarise it by saying the present position has been substantially referred to already. We've got a long history of renewables. We had virtually 100% at one time. We've now got some coal and replacement with gas. We've got some imported coal, but we've got still a very big capacity from hydro. We do have the opportunity to develop the resource which we've got. So whilst the supply at the moment is sufficient for our domestic needs, the growth is dependent upon a number of factors. One of them is whether the resource is there, and I won't go into the detail, but the resource is undoubtedly there. We are blessed with an excellent renewable energy resource. We then have got to look at, well, how can that be used? And I'll come to the answer to that in a moment. How did we get here? Well, it was hydro-industrialisation as a policy which drove the development of hydro. We got to, or very close to, 100% renewable. We were leaders, but that has fallen behind somewhat as some of the other states have taken a more serious development and had greater opportunities to catch up. So the government decided that they would have a look at how can Tasmania catch up, and they established the Tasmanian Renewable Energy Industry Development Board to provide advice as to how that can happen. And we're not yet ready to provide a report, to provide the advice, but let me outline briefly some of the approach which has been adopted. We started with a workshop in which we invited a whole lot of people with expertise and interest in the area to discuss what they saw as the enablers and the barriers to the development of renewable energy in Tasmania. We took notice of what they said. We then developed a program of work which includes a number of aspects, and one of those was this week. We held a workshop in which we endeavoured to find out what is the capacity of Tasmania to be able to develop renewable energy from a resource point of view, and from a expertise, research capacity, an industrial capacity, and where can we go to in utilising that. There are a number of other aspects of work which are being undertaken and which will, I trust, bear fruit in the near future. One of those is the vital question, and that is governing whether Tasmania can develop its renewable energy resources or not is probably no longer a matter of can we attract major industries, as the old hydro-industrialisation policy was, but can we export to replace coal in the mainland, in the remainder of the Australian, particularly in the southeast Australian region. And that will of course depend upon whether we can transmit it there, whether we can send it, and that depends upon having the capacity by interconnector to be able to do that. And there are a lot of questions in relation to the costs of interconnection, the way in which it will be operated, and they need to be investigated. But I have considerable heart given to me in relation to this in discussions I've had with both Scotland and Iceland. Iceland, and you know how far away from Europe that is, they are seriously, so they tell me, planning the possibility of a cable to utilise their geothermal and their hydro generation to transmit it to Europe. Now that really surprised me. More understandable is the work that thanks very much.